So this morning I see there's more announcements of cuts that are going on at schools. And so I don't mean this to be a rant, so hopefully you don't take it from that standpoint. But at the same time, there has to be some common sense here. There's not real deep thinking going on with this stuff. It's like big business just like blindly slashing jobs and in an effort to reduce the bottom line. But it's when you're training, like, so I'm in human performance. So as a trainer, if I say I can't run a marathon, I don't just stop running. I don't throw out my shoes because I can't run a marathon today. I work my way up to it. I don't stop entirely, right? I don't burn the bridge because right this second we can't cross it. And the other thing is, from a business standpoint, if you're going to shut down something or a section of something, it makes sense to check in with the people that it affects. So if you're just getting rid of programs, why not check in with the people in the program and say, hey, listen, here's our budget deficit. This is what we need to recoup for this. Does anybody have any ideas? It's really not that complicated. And to be completely honest with you, it's completely reckless and irrational for them to go through and just blindly slash things. And you can say, no, it's not blindly. They did this with a heavy heart and all this other stuff and a light hand or whatever you'd call it. The bottom line is there needs to be bigger thinking going on. If you don't run a business, if you're not an entrepreneur, if you don't think in that creative way and you're a manager or you're someone who's used to mom and dad giving you an allowance and you figuring that out, that's not the same as someone who creates revenue. If you don't understand how to create revenue because you're in academia, if you're in academia and you don't understand how to do that, then you call somebody who has done it. You call a business that was faced with extinction maybe and decided, hey, listen, there's probably another way to earn revenue. There's probably another way for us to recoup this. I'm going to give you an example, and I don't mean to throw them under the bus. But one of the schools that we went to for training camps when I was in high school was Appalachian State down in Boone, North Carolina. Beautiful school. Love all the people down there. This morning they just announced they're cutting 3 sports because of COVID, the pandemic, all this other stuff. Well, unless it took the lives of their coaches or it took the lives of their athletes, then this wasn't because of that. This was because you've decided you're turning your back on your own people. And this is personal because you are just deciding that you know something that you don't know because you haven't asked people. You haven't asked for help. There is no way every single one of those parents got a phone call. There's no way every single one of those athletes or coaches got a phone call and said, hey, listen, what can we do to save this? Because it doesn't look like people are looking at that. It's like, what do we do to save the school? Well, guess what? You don't have to cut off the leg to save the body every single time. You should probably do diligence and check into it. There's no way they did. There's absolutely no way they did. You have 20,000 students at that school almost. You're telling me that you can't figure out a way to actually earn like an extra $100 per person. An extra $100 per person. That's $2 million. Is that going to save all 3? Probably not. But if you could figure out maybe how to get an extra 1,000 per person, which honestly, if you increase the offering, if you ask the student athletes or the students or the faculty, hey, what is it that we want more of? How can we deliver more value to you? How can we add to the quality of your life? What would you be willing to pay for? And don't tell me about the cost of these schools. Like the sticker price on these schools is a joke. It's like going to buy a brand new car. Like the sticker on there says 50, but really it's 40. But if they can get 50 out of you, they'll get 50 out of you. And it was supposed to be about education at one point, and that's real interesting. The only problem is it's a business now, and now it's big business. It's been big business for a while. And that's the way that it's gone for the sports, and that's the way that it's gone for academia too. And there's some great people in there. And it's just like if you go to church and you see somebody at church that's doing wrong to people. It's not the church's fault. It's not religion's fault. It's that person's fault. They're the one who's accountable. They're the ones that are responsible. They're the one to blame if you're a blamer. And it's the same thing with the colleges. Not everybody's to blame. Not everybody in NCAA is terrible. It's just as a group, like we have to do better than this. We are called to do better than this. We don't need to turn our back on this. We better not turn our back on this because guess what? Today it's App State. Tomorrow, who knows who it is? Tomorrow, who knows what program it is. And it doesn't matter if it's a women's sport or a men's sport that's getting canceled. The bottom line is, it is a sport. It is a thing. It was something and it's supposed to be there to enhance the experience. It's supposed to be a part of what you're there to do. Now, if you disagree with it, that's fine. But it's sports today. Tomorrow, what is it? Science? Is it something else? And so then we got to get to the bottom of this is saying, is college necessary? So like, you better be careful if you're the person who's sitting in the ivory tower right now deciding to make these cuts, because you're not involving the people that you're affecting, and it makes no sense. I don't understand it. And yes, I do know that I know how this goes. I've been there, been through it, and I can tell you right now, they don't tell you about it. They tell you after the fact, and they apologize. But words are empty. Actions are meaning. And you want to show me appreciation, you involve me in a process. You want to show me gratitude, you say, hey, listen, this is how we're hurting. What can we do to help? Let's just brainstorm this. There's no brainstorming going on down there. It's blame the pandemic for everything. That's just blindly cut things out. And if you're all for music or you're all for arts and you're thinking this doesn't apply to me, you better believe it does, because that's the next thing they're coming to, or whatever else after that. And it's, again, it's not that somebody's to blame. It's just there has to be a better way. There is a better process. There's more intelligent protocol. You could be calling up Singularity University. You could be talking to Elon Musk. You can be talking to Bill Gates. You can be talking to Peter Diamandis. You can be talking to all these forward thinkers that are getting it done in industry and say, hey, listen, what is it that we're not seeing? What is it that could be gold here that really could help us tap into tuning into our market and turning on, that speaker that we need to hear coming from them? Because there's no way that you talk to 3 sports at Appalachian State and they said, yeah, let's give up the programs. We don't want to do this anymore. We've committed our whole life to it. And I know the song and the dance that the school goes through. I'll tell you what it sounds like, because I've heard it a number of different times, a couple of times personally, and I've heard it a number of times on top of that. And that is, we care about you. You're the most important thing. It's really your experience that we're concerned for. Tell me again then why we cut the program. Tell me again why the pandemic caused this situation. Like, we can't come up with the money to save it. And maybe allow, how about this? If we're gonna go all Darwin on this thing, then instead of blindly axing programs, why don't you do this? Why don't you put that axe in the hands of the coach or in the hands of the players and say, listen, here's what we need to operate this program. If you can get it done, let's get it done. If you can't, we're sorry. But give them a chance. Like, nature gives itself a chance. This is not nature or nurture. This is just a dad or a mom coming in and saying, I'm taking away your allowance. I know we never showed you how to make money. I know we never even allowed you to make money. Now we're taking away your allowance. Good luck. Oh, we're pulling the roof out from over your head. We're going to tell you that we love you, and we're going to say all these really, really nice things. But now on top of all that, with the pandemic, we can't even give you a hug and a kick on the behind as you leave. I mean, it's a mess. And I'm not going to stop until I reach out to pretty much everybody that I know in the industry and making sure that they're aware of this and that they're involved in this. Because if you don't roll up your sleeves and get involved and you say, well, I don't want to stick my neck out there, well, then guess what? There'll be nothing to fight for later, because this is the way it's going. And if you think this is the first and the last and the only time that we're going to deal with some sort of pandemic like this is a preview. This isn't this isn't that, 1980s, one hit wonder. This is something that is going to show up again. And how are we going to learn from it? If we just blindly cut, that's not learning. And people will say, well, we reviewed the data and this is where we minimize the risk. This is how we can save yourself. You don't save yourself by just blindly cutting. You save yourself by figuring out how to grow and getting more intelligent about the way that you utilize your resources. This is not that. It's not even close.